Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for waiting around, and my apologies for the wait. We have basically been working right up to the last minute to be able to get the Dubai leg of the 7's series to be shown on our free-to-air television. The reason, as you know, that we have put in place, or we had put in place this law, was because we want every Fijian, irrespective of wherever they are located in Fiji, irrespective of whether they can, whether they are rich or poor, to be able to watch this very, very important sporting event. As you know that many parts of the world does have this provision where they allow certain matters of national importance to be able to be watched by everybody. We need to stick together as a nation because we need to take a principled position. If we do not take a principled position on this matter, then we will always be sidelining, always marginalizing people who are on the fringes. So, for example, I can tell you, at the moment, there's very poor coverage by Fiji TV in certain parts of Nosori, Savu and Latoka, and you have full coverage by FBC. You have partial coverage by Fiji TV and full coverage by FBC in parts of Lambasa, interior parts of Mba, large parts of Tavua, parts of Savu, parts of Navua and Dumba. There is no coverage by Fiji TV and full coverage by FBC in Raki-Raki, Nandarivatu, Korvo, Yasawas, Mamanudas. And there's no coverage by Fiji TV and partial coverage by FBC in parts of Tavyuni, Ovalau, Kandavu, Koro Island, Raketi, Senganga, Waininkoro, Daku, Maduata, Tanginikula, and Ngaloa. This is the reality. Yes, there's about lower part of Lower Rag and Wailoko where there is poor coverage of FBC. But you got good coverage of Fiji TV. So you can see from this analysis that's been carried out by Ministry of Communications that there are very large tracts of Fiji where you have no coverage or very poor coverage or partial coverage by Fiji TV. So the whole idea was, as we did with FIFA World Cup, that MyTV, as you know, had a very small footprint. So with MyTV and through FIFA, we were able to get both the TV stations, Fiji One and FBC TV, to be have FIFA World Cup shown on those two channels, and free-to-air, not just because you can afford Sky Pacific or any other cable television. So it is a matter of basic principle that we introduced this. Fiji is unlike other countries who are rugby countries like Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, England, Italy, France. We have large corporations, we have large television companies, large commercial interests, which then can spread this coverage throughout the country. And indeed, there is a lot of bidding that goes on. In Fiji, essentially, you have only 3 TV stations, and all 3 of them do not cover 100% of Fiji, fully, completely. But the one that covers Fiji in the largest part, and with good coverage, is obviously FBC TV. So the idea was that when we put in place this law, that we get to spread that coverage for all the designated events, which includes not just sporting events, but general election results, which includes national budget address, question answer time, state funerals, and of course the others are like Coca-Cola games, many South Pacific games, Commonwealth Games, Olympic Games, Netball World Cup, FIFA World Cup, IRB 7's series, Rugby League World Cup, Rugby World Cup 7's and 15's. All of these were designated events. So what we did, and the law was to guarantee that as many Fijians as possible are given the opportunity to watch these events of national importance, of national significance, and indeed to their lives. So we obviously, like I said, are not dictated by this commercial interest. We have been negotiating. There's been a lot of correspondence. I must thank the willingness of of the chairman of Fijian Holdings and also the CEO of Fijian Holdings, who we've had discussions with, and I can give you copies of, and Ministry of Information has already released some of these letters, where they themselves have written to the World Rugby, as it's called now, and said we do not have a problem in sharing the feed. We are getting compensated for it. And they've already written 2 letters. In fact, they've written another letter today, essentially reinforcing and asking them to humbly reconsider their decision to pull the plug, so to speak, on Fiji TV if they were to share it. They have said that they want to reiterate their position, and as far as Fiji TV is concerned, does not have any issues whatsoever with complying with the provisions of the decree. We therefore request World Rugby to immediately make available the feed for the World Rugby 7's series for Dubai, as well as for other international rugby events that are covered under our license. So Fiji TV Chairman Ioane Naivelli and Nozar Farid, the Director, have signed letters to this effect. We've had a couple of correspondence which we'll make available to you from World Rugby, where they seem to be insisting on this exclusivity, notwithstanding the fact that we've also written to them, notwithstanding the fact that they had also in fact agreed to the Gold Coast 7's being shown. Now the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, the time difference between Gold Coast 7's and the Dubai leg is nearly 2 months. So once we had shown Gold Coast 7's in both the TV stations, then only 3 days before, or really 2.5 days before the Dubai leg, we get a correspondence saying otherwise. So obviously we have been scrambling around for the past few days in continuous negotiations to try and resolve this impasse. We are still saying to the World Rugby that we still want to talk to you. This tournament lasts for 2 days. We still can be able to show these games which everybody loves sitting around and watching. It is therefore important that as a nation we stick together as a matter of principle. We also have said that the other countries are also concerned about this. So we can tell you now, we have been since yesterday been talking to New Zealand Rugby, and in fact we've been in correspondence with the chairman, Brent Impey. In fact, I just spoke to him on the telephone about 5 minutes ago. They are acting as intermediaries for us and talking on our behalf. They also understand the economics and commercial realities in this part of the world. The Pacific Island countries are in the top 15 rugby countries in the world, top 15. There are only 3 of them, but none of the others have the same economic and commercial positions like we do. Like I said, there are hundreds of millions of dollars worth of sponsorships that exist in France and UK and Italy and Australia and New Zealand and South Africa. You don't have that in Tonga or Samoa or Fiji. And obviously we're a special case. We obviously, all of us punch above our weight, and this is a question of us sticking together to make sure that we have equality and access for all our rugby fans. There are many people, for example, who are part of the Fijian team or have been part of the Fijian team, and wherever they come from, if they come from parts of Yasawas, their very own people cannot watch them because there's no coverage. Or people come from parts in Vanuatu or Northern Division, they cannot watch them. We want them to watch them. This actually helps in rugby development, or indeed any other sports. It's the accessibility to these very important events that are of national significance, but also for personal development. So ladies and gentlemen, we are still very hopeful, but as it stands, it won't be shown on live television. There is live coverage on radio, on RF1 and Bula FM, but only for the Fijian games. Now, one of the propositions by World Rugby was, well, hang on, there's live streaming, but you know, how many people in Yasawas can get live streaming? What's the type of bandwidth we are talking about? So again, it's a lack of understanding of the economic, the technological conditions that exists in small countries like Fiji, and unfortunately it is very different to what is in Ireland, or England, or France, or Italy, Australia, New Zealand for that matter. But we are most grateful for the helping hand that was actually reached out to us by New Zealand Rugby. They empathize with what the position we have taken, and they are working with us. We're hoping that, as you know, Dublin would be waking up very soon as we go off to sleep, and we hope that the submissions that New Zealand Rugby has already written an email and corresponded with the IRB or World Rugby to this effect, and we hope that they will be able to, see the trees from the wood. Our Prime Minister, as you know, is in that part of the world. We have also said that our Prime Minister is quite happy to meet up with them, should they wish to meet up with him to discuss this further and provide any clarification. But unfortunately, and we ourselves obviously will miss out on seeing it, but we need to take a principled position. And if you look at the letter by IRB, we'll give you copies of all of this. If you look at the letter by IRB, it's saying we only want to talk to you if you discuss exclusivity. So we're saying you do not lose out on your market. You do not lose out commercially, because the price that Fiji TV is paying, you still get paid that same price. Fiji TV in turn gets compensated. For those of you who may not know this, when we had the FIFA World Cup, because of the fact that the MyTV had already signed up with sponsors, and they were concerned because they have a much smaller footprint, that the sponsor would leave them, we then gave a directive based on consensus by all the parties that nobody's going to steal the sponsors. Their sponsors, in fact, the ads of the sponsors will be shown on Fiji TV and FBC TV, and should they pick up any sponsors in addition to that, then there's the additional revenue for them. So the whole idea is not to deprive any TV station of any of their commercial interests, nor is it to give an unfair advantage to anybody. This is why an independent survey is carried out to look at the percentage of viewership, and obviously that gets reviewed every couple of years because it may change. So based on the percentages, that's how they pay the sponsorship fees. Now going forward, for all other events where sponsorship agreements have not been entered into, we will bid as a country. So the law at the moment says that any sponsorship agreements that were in place prior to the law coming into place, we need to have this, this portionality being worked out. So whatever price somebody has got the sponsorship for, you split it. Now going forward, we'll bid as a country, and whoever is going to have the rights may actually in fact get more money, because we're bidding as one country, as opposed to a very sort of one may say an anti-competitive behavior. So ladies and gentlemen, that is the position. We are still trying to get it on. We hope that World Rugby will be able to come to the table with something favorable. But at the end of the day, we must all stick as a country to ensure we take the principled position. Otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, all those areas that I've highlighted, people in those areas will continue not to get to see rugby. It's okay for all of us who live in urban areas to say, well, that's well and fine, I just want to see my rugby. But what about those people who live in the margins where there's no network coverage? It also means that not just television companies, but also mobile phone companies, etc., will always cherry pick. And cherry picking means you only have coverage wherever there's large pockets of people, and you forget about the people on the margins. So we obviously are here to ensure that we have greater access for everybody. I understand that the opposition has issued a statement. It's very personalized, unfortunately, and again it's been politicized, and they do not have the capacity, unfortunately, to think as a nation. That there are certain issues that we need to come together as a nation and take a principled position. And that is precisely what we have said. It's got nothing to do, as we've discussed, gone over this on a number of occasions, to favor any one TV company. The idea is that everybody gets free-to-air access to these very important events that are considered dear to everybody. Because on the other hand, if you say it should only be done through pay TV, then obviously those people who cannot afford it, they do not get to watch it. If you say that let's give it to a company that does not have 100% coverage or misses out on large pockets of the population, large areas, then all those people living in those areas also get discriminated against. So the idea is that we treat everybody equally. Whether you live in the Mamanudas, whether you live in Savu, whether you live in Diomba, Draketi, Coral Island, we want everybody to see it. And that is the principle. And we hope that people understand that, but more so than that, we also hope that Rugby Union, the World Rugby, can see this, and we want to put it on record. In particular, I would like to acknowledge the assistance of Mr. Brent Impey, the chairman of New Zealand Rugby, who has been most helpful, and their CEO too has also written to World Rugby, and these are some of the things that we've been doing since yesterday, because we've been reaching out. And I also want to put on record and thank the chairman of Fijian Holdings, Mr. Ioane Novelli, for signing these letters together with Nozar Farid. I want to say also that it would appear that there are some people within Fiji TV that may have been perhaps not necessarily on board with our objective of ensuring that all Fijians get to watch this coverage of these Rugby Sevens, but that's something that we can discuss later. The reality is that at the moment we all need to direct our resources and our energy toward ensuring that we get to see this leg of the 7 series. Again, I want to highlight, very baffling, there's been nearly 2 months gap between Gold Coast and Dubai. We get a letter on the 11th hour. We've got Georgetown coming up next week, and then of course there's a 2-month gap up to Wellington. We obviously don't want to wait that long. We hope that we get this resolved in the next few hours, and that we at least get to see some of the Dubai 7's, or at the very least the 7's that's going to be held in Georgetown. Thank you. Any questions?
So the World Rugby seems to be unfazed and persistent that Fiji needs to take a more proactive step, maybe with the decree, in as far as the decree is concerned. What are your comments on this?
What aspects of the decree are you referring to?
You know, they seem to be saying that the ball is in Fiji's court, and the decision to continue with the decree or not will, they will open the door only if you give some leeway to the decree for now until you talk with them, and then we can talk about the issues that you've raised after the two legs of the series.
Well, they have not said that about the 2 legs of the series, unless you know something that I don't know. The point is that they have said in the letter that they want to, they are saying they'll allow this to be shown and discussions to be held on the exclusivity, continuation of the exclusivity. What we are saying to them is that this is the law in place that allows all Fijians to be able to watch the tournament, to watch this particular leg of it. They allowed Gold Coast 7's to be shown. In fact, we have got a letter that gives specific dates and emails where they have said previously, we do not mind the sharing of it as long as it helps Fiji TV comply with the laws of your land. That's the position they took before. 3 days before Dubai leg, it's changed. So that is the contradiction and the hypocrisy in all of it, and we as a country need to take a principled position.
There's been a lot of, as you would imagine, a lot of response on social media concerning this, and a lot of people are saying that the fraction of people that won't be watching it is small compared to the masses that won't be watching. Your comments to those who are...
There are only 10,000 blind people in Fiji. So does it mean we forget about them? Does it mean we should not translate the Constitution in Braille language? The reality is that if you want to be a fair and equitable society, you need to be able to ensure that most people come on board, if not all people come on board. I think that type of argument is very elitist, because please, I love people to go and say that to people who live in Coral Island or parts of Taveuni, and Draketi and Senganga and say to them, well, there's only a few of you, you don't get to watch it, so that's your problem. The reality is some of those parts of Fiji have produced very good rugby players. So shouldn't the people who come from there be able to watch that game too? It's a principal position. And I think the argument about, because there are only a few of them, therefore we should forget about them is not the right approach. There are many other countries that do have a legal requirement for certain events to be shown on free-to-air television. So this is some of the lines we're following. It's not something that Fiji is the only country in the world that's doing it. We may not necessarily have the same commercial or economic clout as some of the other countries, but we need to take a principled position.
How long will we hold out to make those send a message out there?
I think it's not a question of holding out. I think it's a question of doing the right thing by these people. Of course, we would be foolish to say that there's no pressure, and all of us in this room, we love sitting around and watching the game and drinking Yangona, having a beer and watching the game. But the fact is that here is an organization that firstly allowed it to happen, agreed that it can be done through the Gold Coast 7's, and 3 days before, within the 8 weeks, suddenly decide to go the other way. There's something very, very wrong. And there's something very, very wrong in the manner in which we have been treated in a number of other things in the past number of years. So it's a principled position that we have taken to ensure that we get everybody to watch the 7th series. And we also are trying to impress upon them, as I've said in the letter to them, that to this end, we've also engaged with New Zealand Rugby to intervene on our behalf. We've had discussions with Mr. Brent Impey, the chairman, and Mr. Steve Tew, the chief executive officer, who've already sent correspondence to you in this respect. New Zealand Rugby has a strong and deep understanding of the challenges faced by both players and fans in Fiji. We hope that World Rugby also understands that despite countries like Fiji, Samoa and Tonga being in the top 15 in the world, they have completely different economic situations compared to the developed countries with much larger population base. We are small countries with limited resources and less commercial opportunities. So we've highlighted to them and said, that these three countries cannot be treated the same as, for example, the other countries. So it does not in any way set a precedent regarding the bidding for rights to show television coverage of these games.
So you've got the New Zealand Rugby submitting, giving Fiji a helping hand. You hope other global rugby countries like South Africa, Australia, England also come in with Fiji a helping hand like New Zealand?
Well, we obviously have a much closer relationship in terms of New Zealand Rugby because of the fact that they're closer to us, they understand. As you know, many Fijians play in New Zealand, or have played for All Blacks, and indeed play for rugby club teams, and of course in the Super 14. So they know, many of them have visited Fiji, they know the situation and the challenges, and I'm sure that they are also talking to other people within World Rugby that makes up the board to further our cause, and we hope for a favourable outcome.
So at this stage, you're hoping that World Rugby wakes up tomorrow morning in Dublin this morning and decides to give us the live feed, despite the government's stand not to give it exclusively to Fiji One?
Yeah, we're obviously hoping for that. We also said that we are hoping, happy to have further discussions with them. In our letters we've given our mobile phone numbers, and call us up at any time of the day or night. We've also said our Prime Minister is there, and that they can also, talk to him, and he can meet up with them and impress upon them. So this is the, we're still hoping for a favourable outcome.
So will this in any way change government's stand on TV coverage, or will you be relooking at TV coverage for particular stations to enhance their TV coverage?
Well, we can't tell private companies what to do. That's the reality. Fiji Television has got its own shareholders, etc. Like I said, that it would appear that there's some fractures within the hierarchy in Fiji television. That's something for them to sort out. But we have always maintained and said, as we said to the chairman and the CEO of Fijian Holdings, that these issues, we need to take a national approach to it. We don't take a national approach to it, then we continue to marginalize people.
So you said about government, in the future government bidding for sporting events. Will it mean that government will hope to bid for the next IRB?
No, the law provides that we bid as a country. So all the different TV companies get together and bid as one. It's not government actually buying the rights. The TV companies get together and they bid as one.
A lot of angry rugby fans out there. What you're saying is that we should stand, in principle, the whole country should stand in this decision together?
Yes, that's what we are saying to them. And like I said, it's not of our doing. We are not the ones who pull the plug. It's World Rugby that's pulled the plug. We are the ones who are saying that every rugby fan needs to get to see this game. We are the ones who have been working, in fact, literally day and night to try and get this coverage on. And as we were hoping right up to the last minute, just before 6 o'clock, to make sure it gets on so everybody can see it. And we will continue to work to ensure that we do get the series being shown to us. We've not had any face-to-face discussions with the World Rugby. We want to have that. We're quite willing to talk to them about that. We have got New Zealand Rugby that is supportive of us. And of course, New Zealand Rugby is much bigger than of course, Fiji. And they're in fact supportive of what we are doing. This is why they're acting as intermediaries. If they did not agree with what we are doing, they would not have intervened. So New Zealand Rugby is actually supporting the position that we have taken as a country.